This is Texas News Now, sponsored by Germania Insurance.
Here's a look at today's headlines across Houston. Hello, I'm Len Cannon. A 13-year-old girl is fighting for her life in a Houston hospital after what her family thought was just the flu. But within weeks, that illness turned into something more dangerous, leading to organ failure and even the amputation of 3 limbs. Anayeli Ruiz spoke with the girl's mother, who hopes their story can serve as a warning to others.
This is 13-year-old Kaden Ruiz. Her mom says she's a shy girl who plays the French horn. But in a matter of weeks, she was fighting for her life.
She started getting fever, chills, body aches.
Her mom says it started as a flu, but by the end of January, her symptoms were getting worse. They went to the ER.
Debated on sending us to San Antonio for higher care, and ultimately they decided to send us home to hydrate.
But once home, things took a turn.
Started having respiratory distress and was turning blue, so it took her back to the ER.
Kaden was taken to a hospital in San Antonio. That's when she was also diagnosed with strep.
Her heart was under such distress, 20% of it working by then.
At one point, her heart stopped.
Devastating. Never in a million years did I think that a flu B would lead to something like this.
Doctors at Texas Children's Hospital tell me the flu can be dangerous on its own, but combined with infections like strep, it can quickly become severe.
Influenza B is a very dangerous virus, and some people react far more violently to an infection than others.
That combination caused organ failure and dangerous blood clots in her limbs.
Toxins that are released by the bacteria that activate inappropriate clotting in the wrong location.
Doctors had no choice but to amputate her legs and one arm just yesterday.
It's devastating. How do you tell your kid that, for one? Now she's covered in scars and her whole life has changed.
A fight that started with the flu has now turned her life upside down.
Just want to spread her story and try to help other people.
When flu vaccines become available, that's your best opportunity to protect your child from half of this problem.
Doctors say Kaden has a long road to recovery, including healing and rehab and eventually being fitted for prosthetics. We wish the family a recovery. Bel Air police are looking for a couple of men posing as City of Houston employees, then stealing jewelry from a retiree. That woman very upset and now sounding the alarm. Jason Miles speaking exclusively with the victim and is in Bel Air with what you need to know so this doesn't happen to you.
The alleged crime happened here in Bel Air, though the suspect posed as a City of Houston employee, which was enough to gain the victim's trust. Bel Air homeowner Donna Burnett,
nice, polite young man,
says she never suspected anything nefarious when someone claiming to be a City of Houston employee came calling last Friday.
Just as sweet a young man as you would care to meet.
But not so nice, turns out.
No. Not so nice. He turned out to be a thief.
She says the man said his crew struck a natural gas line and that it might be mixing with a water line, potentially contaminating her water, which he needed to supposedly test. Burnett says he even poured dye into the toilet.
He said I should have gotten a letter from the City of Houston, and I said I didn't.
At some point, the man, or a potential accomplice, snuck upstairs and stole lots of expensive jewelry from multiple rooms.
He just went through everything,
including prized heirlooms that Burnett says no amount of money can replace.
I feel violated. I mean, he went through my sister's things, who has died now, and it's just terrible that he did that.
The City of Bel Air confirms it has received reports of someone posing as a City of Houston employee in an attempt to enter homes, noting that Houston would not typically check utilities in Bel Air, and adding that if someone tries to do so, verify their official identification, check for an authorized uniform, look for a clearly marked city vehicle. Good advice no matter where you live.
You are a retired attorney.
Yes.
So you're not a necessarily naive person.
No.
What does this say?
It says that you can't trust people.
That's sad.
It is sad. It's very sad.
Burnett does not have any surveillance video of the suspect, described as a man with dirty blonde hair and long sideburns, though police are checking with neighbors. In Bel Air, Jason Miles, KHOU 11 News.
Residents in Magnolia, that's up in Montgomery County, say they're stunned and frustrated over outrageous natural gas bills. One family telling us they were billed, listen to this, nearly $4,700 in February. Several other homeowners reached out to KHOU for help after saying the utility company ignored their complaints. Megan Reyna taking a closer look.
People living here in Magnolia know during the winter months their natural gas bill will naturally go up, but they say the weather isn't a good enough explanation for what they're having to dish out, especially for one family who says their bill nearly tripled in February.
Last month, we received our latest bill, and it was for $4,669.48, and that is when I said, absolutely not.
Shocked, confused, and at this point, angry, Abby Roberts reached out to KHOU 11 after she says Pines Gas has yet to adjust this massive bill, 15 times more expensive than just 3 months ago. She says it wasn't due to a leak, but a bad meter that's been replaced. But as of right now, she still owes the money.
Like something didn't alert in their system to be like, wow, we have this customer who usually uses between $90 and $300 a month. All of a sudden it's a $4,000 bill. Maybe we should check into that or, alert them or something. Nothing. Crickets.
But Roberts isn't the only resident dealing with unusually high bills. Several people sent us their statements. One family's bill this month was $618, up from only $50 in November.
Oh my God, these people are April bill. See, it keeps going up. Oh my God, this has got to stop. Every time I get a bill, it's higher.
And Linda Schmidt is used to paying around $40. Now her bill is up to $180.
And we're just seeking answers. What's going on? Why is our bills so outrageous?
So we took that question directly to the company Pines Gas, the only choice for residents living in these Magnolia neighborhoods. A spokesperson told us in his statement the massive winter storm in late January affected natural gas prices and that, quote, the storm-related pricing impacts would have been reflected on our customers' bills during the February to March billing period. They went on to say the prices should return to normal. These residents aren't satisfied with that explanation and have filed complaints with the Railroad Commission of Texas.
They just seem to want to ignore it and bury it and brush it away and hope that we go away. Just pay it and go away. And that is not happening.
I mean, I'm even thinking, am I going to have to move?
Reporting in Magnolia, Megan Reyna, KHOU 11 News.
That is a wrap of your Houston headlines. I'm Len Cannon.
I'm Teresa Woodard in Dallas with your North Texas headlines. Former Dallas Police Association President Jaime Castro recently took a plea deal, admitting he lied in connection with a crash that killed 25-year-old Atiana Washington. But Washington's mother says justice has not been served. She spoke with Luke Clary.
Atiana Washington's mother says that Jaime Castro's plea deal on Friday amounts to a slap on the wrist, and that now her best shot at justice comes in a wrongful death lawsuit.
I don't ever want her to be forgotten.
From the start, something didn't sit right with Mindy Crapo.
I kept telling the detectives something's not right here. No, something's not right.
Her daughter, Atiana Washington, was hit and killed while crossing Northwest Highway last year. Court documents include photos of then Dallas Police Association President Jaime Castro at the scene. Early reports describe him as the passenger and his girlfriend as the driver. On Friday, Castro pleaded guilty to providing a false statement to police, a misdemeanor. He has not responded to our requests for comment. Now, Crapo is bringing a wrongful death lawsuit against Castro and his girlfriend.
He's gotten a slap on the wrist for lying. There is no accountability for the death of my daughter.
WFAA sources say responding officers did not give a drug or alcohol test or ask whether Castro or his girlfriend had been drinking. In a statement, District Attorney John Crezeau said, quote, "It appears the investigation at the scene was incomplete." At the time, Castro led the Dallas Police Association.
It appears to me that they took him at his word that night because of who he was, because of the position he held. When he said he wasn't driving and that they hadn't been drinking, They just stopped the investigation right there.
Now, Crapo and her attorney say this lawsuit and what it could uncover may be their best chance at answers.
She was my best friend. I want her to be remembered in the best way possible.
In Dallas, I'm Luke Clary.
Take a look at this video of a car flying through a roundabout in an Oak Cliff neighborhood in Dallas. This just happened Saturday, but it probably looks familiar because it's happened before in the same spot. We've been reporting on this specific area for months now. We are starting to see some changes being made to try to fix the issue. City leaders are building a permanent barrier for the roundabout to try to keep cars from crashing into people's homes. Richard Solomon is hearing from neighbors who say despite all of the efforts, speeding continues.
Every neighborhood has a flavor.
It's hard to sleep at night when you hear those sounds and you're just waiting for what happens next.
And in Taylor Smith's North Oak Cliff neighborhood, he says it's supposed to be slow and steady, but that's not what they've been getting lately.
You hear all the street racing at night.
He lives right along Tyler Street, right by this roundabout, where cars keep flying and crash landing into homes and barriers. It happened yet again.
You can see debris.
Just days earlier, another driver plowed into newly installed barriers. Smith has spent years documenting the problem, capturing video after video of cars speeding. In one from last May, hours after the crash into a home, a car is seen flying over the sidewalk, nearly hitting people.
It's the excessive speeding is the cause for all of this.
City leaders say the new permanent barrier has helped. Earlier this month, Councilmember Chad West told WFAA there is a corridor study underway to address the issues.
You see this sign, it's literally screaming at drivers, slow down, roundabout ahead. It's one of several safety measures put in place here by city leaders. And as you get closer to the barriers, you'll notice work is still being done.
I still do feel safe, especially with these additional measures.
We have reached out to Dallas police to ask if more enforcement or changes are coming, but we're still waiting to hear back.
Would you want a car driving through the middle of your house?
But Smith says the flavor of his neighborhood is simple.
It's not just their safety, other drivers.
And it's meant to be shared by everyone.
Pedestrians, people that live here.
In Dallas, I'm Richard Solomon.
The Nordstrom store at Galleria Dallas is closing. The final day will be May 16th. The closure is raising some bigger questions about the future of traditional malls across North Texas. Tiffany Liu takes a closer look at what it could mean for shoppers and for the future of retail in DFW.
It was the first Nordstrom to open in Texas. In 1996, the store filled 225,000 square feet over 3 floors at Galleria Dallas. But in 2022, it downsized to 2 floors. And just this week, the retailer announced, "We've made the decision to close our Nordstrom Galleria Dallas store."
Incomes have evolved over time, right?
David Quigley is a clinical assistant professor of economics at UT Arlington.
Some people have moved up.
He says some are now buying more expensive items while others are finding cheaper alternatives.
But other people, of course, are not as comfortable.
Nordstrom, David says, sits in the middle.
This has been a long-term trend that's impacted indoor malls.
We heard from a lot of you, Jessica Vega saying it's the end of an era. Others agree with Brad Reese, who says, and there goes the Galleria. Even a financial planning service, Azimont Group, chiming in. They say the world is changing and sometimes less is more. They can now give more focus to the 2 remaining stores in Dallas and Frisco. And that's what Nordstrom tells WFAA. In a statement they write in part, "We believe we'll be best able to serve customers in the area by leveraging our surrounding stores and through our digital channels." North Park Center in Dallas and Stonebriar Center in Frisco will have the 2 remaining Nordstroms in the DFW area. Plus, there are 10 Nordstrom Rack locations.
Indoor malls at this point have been overbuilt.
David says outdoor malls have become more convenient with closer access to stores from parking. But hope is not lost for indoor malls.
I think there's still enough of a market there that the Galleria could continue to survive.
Galleria Dallas recently announced 8 new retailers, including Aritzia. The mall says Galleria Dallas continues to evolve in exciting ways. While disappointed, after 30 years, Nordstrom will close on May 16th. I'm Tiffany Liu.
The clock's ticking on some of the most popular hemp products in Texas. New state rules will ban all smokable hemp by the end of the month. The businesses that sell them say it's going to hit their customers and their bottom lines. Here's Cole Sullivan.
The legal high in Texas may be about to crash. And the come down could take Sean Claudio's store with it.
I mean, small business like ours, we'll probably have to shut down.
New state rules ban some of the most popular products at his Dallas hemp company.
So all of this will go away. All of our pre-rolls.
Hemp flour, the kind that's smoked in joints or pipes, will be effectively banned at the end of the month.
Say about 30% of our business is in flour.
The rules from the state health department change how THC, the ingredient that gets you high, is measured, including different derivatives that now must be under a certain threshold. Edibles and drug-infused drinks aren't covered by the same rules, Claudio says, but making and selling them will become more expensive.
Within 20 days, we'll have to fork over about $15,000 if we want to stay operational. So.
Those new licensing fees are down from original proposals after hundreds went to Austin to lobby against them earlier this year. A handful spoke in favor, including the group Citizens for a Safe and Healthy Texas, which calls these new rules a step in the right direction.
They're putting us out of business.
Claudio says customers have started to stock up, but he's hoping for a legal injunction. Without it, he says the new rules may cash out his livelihood.
That's horrible, you know. It's disheartening, to say the least.
In Dallas, I'm Cole Sullivan.
And those are your headlines from North Texas.
For insurance you can trust, help is just a handshake away. Find your local agent at germaniainsurance.com.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. You know, we've seen lots of sunshine over the past several days, and we're going to continue to keep that weather pattern going. We don't have any big storm systems on the way, but we are tracking a cold front towards early next week. But for now, we will just continue to see temperatures warm up. So Thursday, the headline, it's just very warm. Hard to call it hot just yet in some locations because we are expecting even hotter temperatures as we get into the weekend. So Friday, heating up. Temperatures likely warmer in most locations. And then by Saturday, just plain hot and dry. We're going to keep it that way at least through Sunday. So checking out the areas around Amarillo, we're talking low 90s for Thursday afternoon. And then by the time we get into tomorrow, temperatures will make it into the mid 90s, but upper 90s expected as we start out our weekend on Saturday. And you can tell that, yeah, there's going to be plenty of sunshine really all across the board. It's going to be really hard to get any sort of really good cloud cover around here to provide a little bit of shade or relief. So around Austin today, at least a little bit better. Temperatures in the mid 80s, but we do make it to around 90 degrees tomorrow afternoon with low 90s expected on Saturday. Corpus Christi, even better though. Low 80s today, upper 80s tomorrow, and we finally do hit that 90 degrees by the time we get into Saturday. Now, North Texas looks very warm. Temperatures will likely make it into the upper 80s today, but low 90s are expected as we get into Friday with mid 90s expected this weekend. Now in El Paso, a little bit hotter. Temperatures making it into the low 90s this afternoon, but mid 90s as early as Friday, and then mid 90s expected on Saturday. Houston, temperatures only in the low 80s this afternoon, upper 80s tomorrow, but even in Houston, we're hitting about 90 degrees by Saturday afternoon. Now Waco, upper 80s today, but low 90s tomorrow and mid 90s expected for your Saturday. So looking at our timecast, it's going to be pretty quiet, but we do have some changes eventually. That's not going to be today. That's not going to be tomorrow. In fact, tomorrow it looks like statewide, nothing but sunshine. It's going to be absolutely beautiful, but you may want to limit your time outdoors, especially this weekend, with temperatures climbing into the 90s. So, you know, that's obviously very unusual for this time of year. It certainly does happen, but we're saying anywhere between 20 to 25 degrees above normal. Now, by the time we get into late Sunday night to early Monday morning, we at least have a cold front coming through northern and parts of central Texas, eventually making its way south later Monday. But that will at least provide a little bit more cloud cover. It looks like this cold front, at least for all of Texas, will be coming through dry, but it will drop our temperatures by several degrees. Tonight, though, temperatures only drop down into the 40s and 50s for most of us. About 54 degrees in DFW, 58 degrees in Abilene, 58 in Austin also, and there's a 49 degrees, the coolest spot I'm saying across the map today, in Lubbock. Tomorrow afternoon, though, it does look pretty hot. Now, North Texas, we're talking about low 90s. We've got upper 80s around Amarillo, 96 degrees later tomorrow in San Angelo, but upper 80s around Austin and mid 80s in Houston. We've got the low 80s around Corpus Christi. Air quality index doesn't look all so bad now at DFW and also around Austin. We do have that moderate category, but for the most part, most of Texas will be in that healthy category. Looking at the next few days, it's only going to get hotter again, at least through Sunday. Changes arrive by the time we get into Monday. So starting out with West Texas, we've talked about El Paso. Looking at Lubbock, you can kind of see that the cold front does move in there a little bit more quickly. So we're looking at upper 90s on Saturday, but mid 80s expected on Sunday. In Midland, Texas, the cold front holds off for a little bit longer. So we're keeping the mid 90s for Friday, Saturday, or really Saturday upper 90s, but we do at least drop a couple of degrees. Obviously not a big difference there on Sunday. Central Texas, very warm, a little hot in some days, especially Saturday, it looks like. But on Friday in Austin, we're looking at a high of about 90 degrees with low 90s expected a couple of days after that. Fredericksburg also looking at low 90s for today with mid 90s expected on Saturday, low 90s on Sunday, and South Texas looking very warm as well. Now, San Antonio, about 90 degrees tomorrow, mid 90s on Saturday, low 90s on Sunday. Corpus Christi, though, temperatures in the upper 80s tomorrow, around 90 degrees on Saturday, and we're going to keep that 90 degrees going for your Sunday. North Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth, Weatherford, Denton, pretty much all in the same boat here. We're talking low 90s for your Friday, mid 90s on Saturday, and mid 90s also on Sunday. And again, these temperatures are going to be in record territory. East Texas temperatures, we've got at least a few more 80s in there. So in Houston, we're talking about temperatures only making it into the upper 80s. I say only, but it's just in comparison to everyone else. Upper 80s in Houston on Friday, but we do make it to 90 degrees on Saturday. We've also got that 90 on Sunday. In Beaumont, we've got low 80s, not only for tomorrow, but we're also expecting low 80s Saturday and Sunday. So one of the cooler spots, if you will. Around the valley, though, in McAllen, we're talking about temperatures in the low 90s on Friday, mid 90s for the entire weekend. In Brownsville, a little bit better, upper 80s for tomorrow, upper 80s on Saturday. We've also got some upper 80s on Sunday.
For insurance you can trust, help is just a handshake away. Find your local agent at yourmediainsurance.com.
I'm Isis Romero, and this is the news in San Antonio. Today, the New York Times released a bombshell investigation that said United Farm Workers co-founder Cesar Chavez sexually molested and raped girls and young women. The investigation comes weeks after Cesar Chavez marches were canceled around the country, including right here in San Antonio. Reporter Simone Simpson reached out to the city about possible changes coming around the city in light of the allegations.
When I read it, I was disheartened and disgusted to learn about the details of underage women who were victims of this predator, and to know that we have many streets named after this individual. What came to mind is, how do we engage community here? Is this something that they would like to initiate a conversation about renaming?
In a memo to the city released Wednesday, District 5 Councilwoman Terry Castillo proposed renaming Cesar E. Chavez Boulevard and Cesar Chavez Day with the help of public input.
The city of San Antonio has a rich labor history, and there's many labor organizers that we've had here in the city of San Antonio. So there's opportunity and a wealth of labor organizers that we could continue to honor the mission and vision of the organizers of the United Farm Workers by also connecting it to local organizers who have done labor work in our community.
We received a statement from LULAC that reads in part, "The League of United Latin American Citizens unequivocally condemns any form of sexual violence against women and minors and strongly denounces the actions alleged involving the late Cesar Chavez." The actions of one person neither reflect nor diminish the integrity of the farm worker movement. LULAC remains unchanged in its support of the farm worker movement. The Chavez family released a statement to the New York Times saying, in part, "As a family steeped in the values of equity and justice, we honor the voices of those who feel unheard and who report sexual misconduct. And these allegations are deeply painful to our family."
A San Antonio police officer is fighting for his life after being hit by a driver. Earl Stoudemire explains what led up to the crash.
SAPD says the officer was on a motorcycle when he was hit by a driver on East Houston Street. SAPD says the officer is in the hospital in critical condition, being assessed for a possible head injury. Here's video from the scene. Investigators say the officer was leaving work at the East Houston substation just after 2:30 this morning when he was hit. Leading up to this crash, investigators say the officer had the right of way going straight on East Houston when the driver of a silver sedan turned onto the street from Noblewood Drive. The 38-year-old driver is being evaluated for possible DWI, but at this point, no charges have been filed. SAPD says the officer is 28 years old. This is still an active investigation. Earl Stoudemire, KENS 5.
A San Antonio Park police officer is under arrest and is now facing a felony charge. SAPD says Officer Juan Esqueda was taken into custody on Tuesday night by the Bexar County Sheriff's Office while off duty. He's charged with assault family violence involving impeding breath or circulation, which is a felony offense. Officials say Esqueda has been with Park Police for about 3 years. He's been placed on administrative duty. A criminal and internal investigation are now underway. A robbery at gunpoint escalated into a stabbing and a victim was rushed to the hospital. This happened Monday afternoon at a smoke shop off West Avenue. And now the man wanted for the violent crime is behind bars. Vanessa Croy has the latest.
Investigators say this holdup didn't end inside the store. It spilled out into the parking lot when one of those victims fought back and then was stabbed. But police say it was the keen eye of a witness who followed that suspect and finally allowed detectives to track him down.
This was the scene Monday afternoon outside the Planet 420 smoke shop off West Avenue. According to an arrest warrant, 54-year-old Marcus Dees stormed into the smoke shop, pulled out a gun, and demanded cash from the register. Police say after getting the money, he then demanded the victims hand over their cell phones. The employee handed over hers, but her friend refused. Dees ran out the door, police say, and that friend chased him, leading to a fight in the parking lot. That's when investigators say Dees slashed the 23-year-old man with a knife. Despite his injuries, detectives say the man then tried to go after Dees, but collapsed a short time later. Police say the sharp eyes of a witness saw this all go down and called 911. Telling officers what car Dees got into and even got the license plate. Detective used that info to track down the suspect, and Dees was hauled off to jail.
Tonight, Marcus Dees is facing a charge for aggravated robbery. As for that victim who was brutally stabbed, at last check, police said he was rushed to the hospital and then into emergency surgery. His condition is still unknown tonight. Reporting near downtown, Vanessa Croy, KENS 5.
Rapper Lil Wayne is bringing more than 2 decades of hits to San Antonio this fall. Lil Wayne is set to take the stage at the Frostbank Center on October 17th for his The Carter Anniversary Tour. The show celebrates more than 20 years of his iconic Carter album series, featuring fan favorites that helped define a generation of hip hop. Tickets go on sale this Friday. And that's the news in San Antonio.
I'm Bailey Bates. Here are your headlines from Central Texas. After a fire tore through downtown Gatesville Monday night, investigators have pinpointed where it started. The State Fire Marshal's office says the fire started at the Gatesville Messenger, and they're still trying to figure out what caused it, but say it wasn't crime-related. Sydney Walker has the details.
2 days later, the smoke remains, but the details are less hazy.
The fire, they now believe, did originate not in the bail bond office, but in the Gatesville Messenger office.
Brad Hunt said the smoke was first seen at the bail bonds, causing the confusion.
They're still investigating the cause.
The State Fire Marshal's office doesn't suspect arson.
They did not believe there was any criminal intent to the fire.
Regardless, hearts are still broken.
The Messenger is taking it pretty hard. They've lost a lot in there, a lot of history, a lot of archives.
And doors closed.
It appears that everything's
gone.
But Clay McClellan hopes his store isn't gone for long.
Chances possibly to find another temporary location and see if it's feasible to rebuild there.
Downtown Gatesville is Liard's home.
128 years.
He's still adjusting to the loss.
When you go to get up every morning and think you're going to town, but there's nothing there.
He didn't believe it at first.
Well, I didn't think there was anything to it. We were at the soccer field, and I came down and I noticed the smoke, and then, my gosh, I said, it is down there.
But his store is a complete loss.
It just got bigger and bigger. It just one by one till the very end.
The city's assisting the business owners in next steps, but say the insurance claim and demolition will take time. So downtown will look a little different. The good news, everyone's okay, including the firefighters.
They were all treated and released, so no major injuries there.
And McClellan is grateful for those fire crews.
They were doing everything. I went out, I left about 10 o'clock, and I came back the next morning. There was still some of them there.
And that was Sydney Walker reporting. In more news, this Women's History Month, one woman is writing her own story, one class at a time. She spends her days cleaning halls at Texas A&M Central Texas University and her nights hitting the books. Our reporter Juliana Jackson shares her story.
Before, when I worked here, she had talked to me about college, and, myself, I kind of just blew it off at the time.
Marcy Maharaj notices everything, from the shine on the elevator to the hallway that needs sweeping before the first class of the day.
I was like, where am I going to find the time?
For a while, college was never part of her plan, till a faculty member asked, "Have you ever thought about going to college?"
You're never going to find the time. It's just, you have to make time for it.
Faculty members helped Marcy through every step, from admissions to financial aid. Once enrolled into her college-level classes, Marcy aced Composition 1 and is currently in applied math. But she isn't walking this journey alone.
I started at CTC like Marcy, and then I transferred over here, did my bachelor's in liberal studies, Texas A&M University, Central Texas, and then I ended up doing my master's in education.
Fellow custodian Jessica Caldwell has been cheering her on every step of the way.
I'm very proud of Marcy because not only it shows determination, dedication, sacrifice. She's also a single mom, and one of her kids has special needs, so she's got it a lot harder than I did.
They both have advice for any woman thinking about taking their first step.
Definitely give yourself grace. Do not try and do too much, because if you're already working, going to school, you have kids, you definitely don't want to take on too much, because then you end up giving up.
Marcy plans to enroll in more classes for the fall semester and hopes her story inspires other women on campus and beyond to take that first step. Those are your headlines from Central Texas.
Here are your headlines from Southeast Texas. I'm Mark Armstrong. The city of Port Arthur taking steps to bring Mardi Gras back. A resolution for next Tuesday's city council meeting lays out a plan for the Convention and Visitors Bureau to run the event as early as next year, including a parade, vendors, and entertainment all back in the city. And we are following the death of Ernisha Harris. Her daughter sat down with 12 News telling us that she was full of personality and was always the life of the party. Beaumont police and the fire department said the 42-year-old was found dead inside of a burned shed Saturday afternoon. 12 News reporter Ebony Coleman shares how Harris is being remembered.
Police there, and they like somebody's deceased inside the shed or whatever. So like my heart dropped.
The family of Ernisha Harris is mourning the loss of a daughter, a sister, and mother of two. Beaumont police say the 42-year-old's body was found Saturday inside this burned building in the back of a home in the 3500 block of Johnstown Avenue.
I'm like, dang, my father just passed last year. Nah, my mama gone.
That loss especially being felt by Harris's daughter, 20-year-old Patricia Stubbs. She says the two shared a special bond.
She was very goofy. Everybody loved her.
Stubbs says on top of her larger-than-life personality, her mother was also skilled, known for doing makeup and being a hairstylist.
She used to do everybody's hair like growing up.
A passion passed down from mother to daughter.
I used to always watch her like when I was little and stuff, and I used to have dolls and stuff, and I used to practice on my dolls.
She says the bond the two shared will never be forgotten and push her to be better, just like her mom.
It's gonna make me go harder, perfect my skills because I still have a lot of stuff I need to work on.
BPD says they have not ruled out foul play, but the cause of Harris's death is still under investigation.
If somebody did do something to her, I just hope justice gets served.
Stubb hopes someone will come forward with information while police continue to investigate.
That was crazy. Like, she don't bother nobody. Like, who can hate her? So if you did do something, come to the light.
And that was Ebony Coleman reporting. Chief Earl White says an autopsy was performed, but says there's no further information available. And 12 News continues to track the future of Silsbee's animal control facility after the heated city council meeting Monday. We are digging deeper into a proposed plan that could change how the shelter operates. The draft standard operating procedure includes keeping the shelter a no-kill model with euthanasia limited to animals severely sick or posing a public threat. Stricter intake and hold rules, mandatory health checkups and microchip scans, detailed record keeping. City leaders say that the facility's policies and procedures, they were falling short, and now they are working to overhaul operations.
Between myself and the city manager and Mr. Martin looked at some of the policies and procedures for Silsbee and decided that, or for the animal control facility, and decided that they were horribly lacking.
12 News requested a copy of that draft, but city leaders say it's not public yet as it's still under review. City Council expected to take a vote on the decision in a future meeting. And 4 dogs are headed to Canada for a second chance. Local animal rescue organization Noble Hearts Dog Rescue is taking a total of 30 Southeast Texas dogs across the border. One foster dog parent said goodbye in hopes of a better life for her animals. And it's never easy to see foster dogs go, especially for Southeast Texans who open their homes to give these dogs a temporary one. Now, sending dogs to Canada, this isn't something new, but it is becoming more important after the city of Silsbee came under scrutiny there for improperly euthanizing dogs. Transporting foster dogs helps rescues find these animals permanent homes with more space and opportunity. Founder of Noble Hearts Animal Rescue, Stephanie Isaacs, believes that once these animals are in Canada, they're going to get a second chance at life that they deserve.
The laws in Canada are so strict, and the people there treat their dogs like royalty. I mean, these dogs want for nothing, and they just don't have a population of strays and dump dogs in Canada.
Isaac says the 30 dogs are to hopefully arrive to their forever homes in Canada this week. And those were the headlines from Southeast Texas.
For insurance you can trust, help is just a handshake away. Find your local agent at yourmediainsurance.com.
In Austin, I'm Mark Mullins. Local water advocates are pushing back against rocket testing that's set to happen at a Texas State University facility. The university announced a partnership with Crossbow Systems back in 2024 to eventually test solid rocket motors at the Freeman Ranch. Reporter Jessica Cha explains.
Water is really important to the San Marcos community.
We have this wonderful natural resource which provides drinking water to over 2.5 million people.
Especially as one of their major sources of water, the Edwards Aquifer reaches historic lows. So Virginia Parker with the San Marcos River Foundation says she doesn't understand why someone would potentially risk polluting it.
So Crossbow and Texas State have an agreement to test solid rocket motors. Texas State cares about water. So that's why this is really confusing.
Crossbow and the university announced their partnership in 2024, where they would build a facility to test these rockets at Freeman Ranch, which Parker says is one of the most vulnerable recharge zones for the aquifer.
The plume that each test will create, if you just picture like this big burst of steam, there are chemicals in that steam. That's going to land somewhere, and the next time it rains, it has a potential to end up in our aquifer.
A petition pushing this testing has more than 5,500 signatures. So we reached out to Texas State. In a statement, a spokesperson said that protecting the aquifer is their top priority. They say Crossbow obtained all required permits and complies with state environmental regulations, and all testing would be conducted under carefully controlled conditions designed to prevent contamination or runoff. KVUE also reached out to Crossbow Systems about how large the rockets they'd be testing would be and how testing would happen. After 2 days of calls and emails requesting information, the company has still not replied. Parker says with the nearest home less than a mile away from the testing facility, it's not a risk they should take.
And so why would we even risk contamination if they could just move it off of the aquifer?
Where water is important. In San Marcos, Jessica Cha, KVUE News.
A jury has sentenced a Liberty Hill man to 32 years in prison for trying to kill his ex-wife. In 2024, police say Clinton Harmon shot Brittany Harmon and her boyfriend Christopher Stewart. Both survived. Now, Brittany told investigators that she and her ex were in a child custody dispute. Last week, a Williamson County jury convicted Clinton Harmon of attempted capital murder. Investigators say Clinton Harmon and other family members discussed plotting to kill his ex and the judge in the custody case. Clinton's adopted father and mother were arrested on felony retaliation charges connected to the threats against that judge. Both of them are due in court in May. At least 3 Austin City Council members are publicly supporting renaming Cesar Chavez Street. It follows a New York Times investigation alleging the civil rights leader who died in 1993 sexually abused and assaulted women and girls. Dolores Huerta alleges that she had 2 sexual encounters with Chavez in the 1960s, one coerced and one forced. Huerta wrote in part, quote, "I am nearly 96 years old, and for the last 60 years have kept a secret because I believe that exposing the truth would hurt the farm worker movement I have spent my entire life fighting for." On Wednesday, Austin became the latest U.S. city to cancel its Cesar Chavez Day celebrations. The group Hispanic Advocates and Business Leaders of Austin, or HABLA, announced the annual march honoring Chavez would no longer take place out of an abundance of caution and respect for all parties involved. It was set for Saturday, March 28th at an East Austin library across the street from a mural of Chavez. Both sit along a busy street named after the labor leader running through the historic heart of Austin's Hispanic community. And that's where we spoke with one man calling on the city to rename it.
We as El Concilio, who initiated through petition the renaming of the street for Cesar Chavez, feel compelled that we have to be accountable and we have to be respectful of the women.
City Council member Jose Velasquez district that stretch of Cesar Chavez Street. He joined council members Vanessa Fuentes and Chita Vela, plus Travis County Attorney Delia Garza. They promised to start the discussion of renaming the street with the community at the forefront. Governor Greg Abbott now says Texas will not observe the Cesar Chavez Day holiday, and he's directing state agencies to comply. The governor is also encouraging state lawmakers to remove the holiday from state law altogether when the legislature meets in January. South by Southwest wrapped up on Wednesday night. This year was different, with events condensed into 7 days and spread out around downtown without the convention center. Reporter Daniel Gomez caught up with visitors and Austinites to gauge how they feel about all the changes.
The 2026 South by Southwest Festival is coming to an end. It's the cleanup to the yearly festival that fills downtown Austin.
I've come to South by the last 3 years, and this has definitely been the most chaotic one yet.
Carly Crabtree needs getting used to South by going by in just 7 days.
And last year it was a full 2 weeks, and the year before that.
Hello, awesome Austin.
But visitors like Paul Rose say the festival's been more inclusive with the consolidated schedule.
Because everything was happening at the same time, I think it did make it go smoother as far as the lines were concerned.
This is the first year without the downtown convention center, leaving everything more spread out. Mike Griswold welcomes the new layouts.
I know there's been plans of revamping this whole area long term. I think this was really great as far as having the Capitol here, having all these events.
And for Larissa Aguilar,
I really hope I can come back. I definitely recommend it.
it's the old South by spirit.
Definitely the community. I think I was really shocked at how friendly people have been. Every time I've been waiting in line or at a panel, everyone will just start talking to each other.
that has her ready for what 2027 brings.
And that was Daniel Gomez with that report. After 50 years in Northwest Austin, a longtime archery club may be forced to leave the parkland that it's managed for decades. Club leaders say the city of Austin owns the property and is now ending their use agreement. Reporter Brianna Perez explains.
For 6 years, the Austin Archery Club has been more than a range for Nalia Juarez. It's her refuge, her second home.
I came out here and I knew this was where I wanted to be every day. This was my quiet. This was my safe haven.
After decades on parkland in Northwest Austin, her safe haven is now at risk. The Austin Archery Club has managed 60 acres of the city-owned land under a 2018 use agreement. But in February, the city's Parks and Recreation Department sent a letter ending that deal, citing their right to terminate the agreement without cause.
Just as every person that comes in through that gate has purpose, same way every arrow that comes out of my bow has purpose. And my purpose is being taken away from me. And that's not fair.
With over 500 members, officials say the 60 acres of land here was put to good use. Now they worry the distance people will need to travel to continue doing what they love.
Your option is to be indoors at one of the local shops, which is limited to about 20 yards. Otherwise, you're driving out of town probably an hour or more in any direction to facilities out there.
Clint Miller is on the board of directors for the Austin Archery Club. He says the decision came without any discussion or notice.
Zero cost to Austin. We really aren't a problem. In 50 years, there's never been any recorded negative incident on this property. So quite honestly, this is something that should be studied. It should be published. It should be awarded. And instead of that, it's being discarded.
If no changes are made, Miller says the space will need to be officially vacated by April 1st. The club is now urging city officials to reconsider and work with them on a solution.
This is my savings grace, and I don't know what I'm going to do without it. And that's very unfortunate.
In Austin, Brianna Perez, KVUE News.
Now, we reached out to the city of Austin about these concerns. A spokesperson told us a memo with more information will be released soon. That's all from us here in Austin. I want you to have a great day.
Hi, I'm Leslie Adamy in Corpus Christi, and here's a look at some of what's happening in South Texas. We are learning more about the state's efforts to ensure Corpus Christi's water future doesn't run dry. An emergency permit issued by the governor will now allow the city to pump groundwater along with certain TCEQ regulations waived to help avoid curtailment. Josh Maxwell has reaction from city and state leaders.
But it's a great constructive effort to try to help the area. That doesn't mean that the water issue is now over.
Texas State District 32 Representative Todd Hunter talking about Governor Greg Abbott's recent announcement to step in and help fast-track Corpus Christi's water future.
In trying to expedite a lot of permitting, helping us on the curtailment issue that you heard about.
That help includes issuing emergency permits to speed up water pumping along the Nueces River and waiving certain TCEQ regulations so that critical water supplies aren't cut off. Corpus Christi at-large Councilman Mark Scott says this gives our region a major advantage.
We can get all 10 million gallons a day in the river, and then we need the TCEQ to approve our western well fields. And that amendment will allow us to put the Edward Shell Foundation water into the river.
Scott says the decision from Governor Abbott also triggered another benefit.
We'll be able to draw water longer out of Lake Texana. So from a water perspective as a ratepayer, yesterday was a good day.
Hunter says he's grateful for Abbott stepping in, but he knows this extra time isn't guaranteed to last.
This is a beginning measure, but it's positive. This gives us some ignition to do some planning.
Josh Maxwell, 3 News.
Now, Corpus Christi's water crisis isn't just about conservation. It's also costing the city billions of dollars. Corpus Christi city leaders say major companies were and are still ready to invest, but without a long-term water supply, they're now walking away. Michael Gibson shows us just how big those losses could be.
When you take a look at the Corpus Christi Regional Economic Development Corporation's list of projects it has secured over the years, it's impressive. But many of those came before 2020, when the city actually had water to offer them. Now, amid the ongoing water crisis, leaders say the losses are staggering.
I've heard numbers as high as 20 billion.
Those are projects tied to companies that need massive amounts of water to operate.
Google was looking into us, and that they needed about 3 million gallons a day.
The city has drilled wells along the Nueces River to boost supply, but it's still not enough. Reservoirs could run dry as soon as next year. And while leaders continue pushing for a desalination plant, companies remain on standby, waiting for a reliable water source.
I would say it's in the billions. It's in the billions.
And other development is on hold as well.
Bet I've talked to $100 million worth of potential investment in the last couple of months, and I shared with them what I knew from the old dashboard, which we since have found out was flawed based on new data.
Now armed with that updated data, the city manager says it's time to take the message directly to the public.
We know that the community wants information, and this is consistent with our long-term practice of being very transparent.
Okay, so a quick break now from our critical water situation. Check this out. There is one big name headed toward the coast. The Dallas Cowboys are inviting fans to enter for a chance to win, wait for it, a trip to Port Aransas to build sandcastles with a Dallas Cowboys alumni. That is what their post says. Now, lucky for us here in the Coastal Bend, that is our backyard, and we don't have to travel very far. The deadline, though, to enter is April 6th. And that is a quick look at some of what's happening here in South Texas.
Hi, I'm Brennan Gurley, and here's what's making headlines across East Texas. According to new FBI data, crime rates across several East Texas counties have dropped compared to years past. Cherokee, Rusk, and Houston counties saw some of the biggest declines. CBS 19's Nayeli Creel has more after speaking with the Rusk County Sheriff's Office and residents.
For longtime Rusk County resident Vicky Murillo,
it's been kind of calm.
The numbers match what she's been seeing in her community.
I mean, I feel like people are able to get out and drive and, just do their daily activities, a little bit less worrying, about stuff because we have good people taking care of us.
Murillo, a mother of 5, says that calm brings a peace of mind, especially with teenagers.
It's almost the end of the year, and I have graduating seniors, so they're starting to do more activities, and them going out and hanging out with friends. I feel okay. I'm peaceful about it.
It's a reason her family chooses to stay, and according to Rusk County Sheriff John Wayne Valdez, a reason why people and businesses move in.
How do you get businesses to move into your county? Well, they're going to look at your tax rate, they're going to look at your school districts, and they're going to look at your crime rate. It's hard to entice businesses, both small and large, to come into this county and set up shop.
Valdez says a big part of the lower crime rate is proactive policing.
Put yourself in the mind of a thief or a burglar. If they see law enforcement in that area, they're less likely to want to go there.
With just a handful of deputies covering nearly 1,000 square miles, he says visibility is key to deter crime before it happens, and the community plays a role too.
I personally have his number. So if, whenever I have a concern, I'm like, I'm sorry to bother you, but I really I need to ask you this.
And while crime may never reach zero, the goal is to keep moving in the right direction.
That we're doing a pretty good job of deterring a significant amount of crime. It still does happen, and will always probably happen. But the more you do to be proactive, the less of that you'll have.
Investigators were on the scene of a second deadly crash on Toll 49 in less than a week, this time involving 2 18-wheelers that shut down parts of Toll 49. CBS 19's Ayanna Aird has more from a witness who saw it all unfold.
I mean, I've seen wrecks and accidents before, but not anything quite like that, as far as just a real quick instant.
Mark Head witnessed the deadly 18-wheeler crash on Toll 49 that left one person dead.
I was just driving on Loop 49 to go make a delivery into Bullard, and I just saw an 18-wheeler lock up its brakes, and it was just a collision.
Officials say the driver of the 18-wheeler traveling westbound hit a guardrail and veered into the eastbound lane, colliding head-on with another semi-truck. The driver of the westbound 18-wheeler died at the scene.
It was really quick, really fast.
This comes less than a week after another deadly crash happened on Toll 49.
You're going to have to defensively drive. It's not saying that this is what happened here. I think this one looked kind of like it was unavoidable, and there's not much that can be done here. But always to try to avoid them as much as possible, defensively drive.
Mark says he sees drivers speeding on this road all the time, which sometimes makes him nervous.
You know, because it's pretty narrow around some turns and corners and stuff, and everybody's, flying pretty fast.
He says his heart goes out to the person who lost their life.
I mean, other than I feel sorry for who the other person was and who their family is, for someone that they lost. Don't know if they had family, wife, or kids, you don't know.
For CBS 19, I'm Ayana Aird.
And that's a wrap up for East Texas headlines. I'm Brennan Gurley.
Texas News Now is sponsored by Germania Insurance.
For insurance you can trust, help is just a handshake away. Find your local agent at germaniainsurance.com.